I think in a previous life, we're really good friends. We're around the same age. We have similar interests: pro wrestling, football, soccer. Weird things happen, and I've been in this business long enough to where you get on the wrong foot with someone, you're never able to repair it. And so for you to come in here and talk to me face to face, actually, I think says a lot about you. So much respect. I really do appreciate it. I think it's a testament to who you are as a professional.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Ariel, and I really appreciate you having me on. It's great to be here. I have enjoyed your interviews with some of the great AEW wrestlers. Like I said, I enjoyed seeing Darby on here. I enjoyed seeing Ricochet. And even though he's not a wrestler in AEW, I enjoyed your interview with Maven, and I thought some of the things he said were really nice. And then after seeing that interview and seeing some of the stuff you've been doing recently, I really wanted to come on, and thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate that. Thank you. How is life?
It's been great. I think I'm really excited right now. I was just watching in the back England U21s playing Slovakia. Josh King, who's 18 years old, is a great young player for Fulham, scored for England for the U21, so it was nice. A lot of great things happening in football. The Jags with a big win Sunday, and this is a huge week for AEW. We've got AEW Full Gear this Saturday night on pay-per-view. It's going to be a great event. It's one of the biggest AEW shows of the year, and it's going to be a big week of TV. Tomorrow we have AEW Dynamite, Wednesday Night Dynamite. It's a 3-hour show. It's on TBS at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And it is actually a 3-hour live show. We're doing Dynamite and Collision on the same night in Boston, and it's going to be a great, great event. We've announced some big matches, and there's more to come. It's always exciting to do a live show, but it's especially big when we get to do a 3-hour show. And being a pay-per-view week, this is kind of one of the biggest weeks of the year in AEW, so I thought it would be great to do something noteworthy to promote it, and it seems like people are really excited to see us talk.
Yes, absolutely. And you're in our backyard as far as Full Gear is concerned. Yes. Prudential Center, The Rock, Newark. You were there last year for this event, and this is one of your like sort of tentpole events, if you will.
Yes.
Darby in the main event.
Well, Darby and Pac is one of the big matches.
It's not the main event.
It's one of the top matches.
Okay.
Hangman Page versus Samoa Joe in a steel cage match is a huge world title match. Mercedes Moné, the TBS champion, wrestling the world champion, Chris Statlander, for the world title in Chris Statlander's backyard. That's one of the huge matches. Pac versus Darby is absolutely one of the big matches coming out of that blood and guts match.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed your interview with Darby, as I said, and
what a character, this guy. He poured water on his... I'm still not sure why.
That's not even in the top 27 crazy things I've seen Darby do.
Yes, I bet. But I enjoyed his vibe very much. I wasn't quite sure what to make of that moment, but a very eccentric guy, a fan favorite. I think a lot of people are wondering when he'll be able to like take that next step to be the guy, you know, to get the belt, to be the face of the company. Do you think he's close to that or not quite yet?
I think he's absolutely already one of the main faces of the promotion, and I've always felt really strong about Darby. Darby is one of our top wrestlers, and he's been with AEW since the very first show, and really it was our first summer of events where Darby came in, and he's, like you said, he's an impressive person inside and outside the ring, and the chances he takes inside the ring are only matched by the chances he'll take outside the ring. He's an absolutely crazy stuntman. He takes insane risks, but he also really loves wrestling. And I'm sure you saw that when you talked to him.
Oh, yeah.
He loves it. And he's a great professional, but I absolutely think he's already one of the main faces of the promotion. He has not been the world champion in singles yet, but he's been the TNT champion and a huge, important face of our media rights partnership, but also as a world tag team champion, he was undefeated with Sting, and Sting's run in AEW is one of my favorite things we've ever done. I grew up as a huge Sting fan. If I had to guess, I bet you grew up as a Sting fan.
I enjoyed him. He wasn't my favorite. That man was my favorite. That man right there, yeah. Bret the Hitman Hart, was my favorite.
Bret Hart was one of my favorite wrestlers too, and I was a huge fan of both of them. Sting is one of my all-time favorites. And to be able to have Sting come and say, I want to keep wrestling and I want to come to AEW and I'll do kind of whatever you want. And he never said, I want to go undefeated or have that run. He never asked for something like that. And he didn't know Darby well yet either. And I introduced them, and it was this pair. They clicked so well in the ring, but they've become best friends out of the ring too.
Wow.
And if you could see them planning their matches, planning their moves, and putting ideas together, it's such an incredible partnership, and, you know, two different generations, and there's even a generation of wrestlers in between them too, which is kind of amazing. You know, they're very different in a lot of ways, but their similarities brought them together. And it's a bond that exists outside the ring, but obviously Sting and Darby in the ring were a great team for us. So Darby has been, to me, already a face of the promotion, and he would be a great world champion too. I really believe that as well.
Is there ever a point with Darby where you feel like it's a little too crazy? Like some of the stuff through the glass, and it's just, sometimes, I have to admit, I'm a hardcore fan too, but I'm like, why put yourself through that? Do you ever feel sometimes like it's a little bit too much with him?
I think he's really a brilliant wrestler, and also he takes these chances, and I think normally they're very calculated chances. The one that I thought was too far, and I would say this to him, and I have said this to him 100 times, what I'm saying to you is, in Sting's last match with the glass in Greensboro, off the ladder through the glass, that was so much, and that was the one where I thought maybe it was too much, and it wasn't exactly the way it was described. It was pretty brutal, and that was the one after where I said, I think you're so brilliant about these chances, but this is the first time ever where I thought probably it was too much. But it was also the greatest night in the history of the promotion, and he took a huge risk, and it worked out, and they won the match, and Sting and Darby finished as an undefeated team, and Sting retired undefeated in AEW as a World Tag Team Champion. It's my personal favorite night ever of all the wrestling we've ever done, and Darby was such a huge part of that, but that was a big risk to take for sure.
What is your line with the stunts? Like Moxley stuff, and what is there a line for you? I know some fans say it's like a little bit too gory. So do you have a personal line?
It has to make sense, and almost everything we've ever done, I thought it made sense. And the things that, if there were ever a few that didn't work out, I thought, well, that probably didn't make sense to begin with. And that's why over the years, I think we've really refined the process. But we have such great wrestlers that 99.9% of the time, I always think everything they do is awesome, and I agree with the choices they make. But sometimes there's stuff that seems like it's pushing it, and absolutely the chances that the wrestlers take on pay-per-views or a big night like Blood and Guts, they sacrifice and they do so much, and that's what makes pro wrestling so great, is you have wrestlers that are willing to sacrifice their bodies for the fans with no off-season 52 weeks a year, and then push it even further under these kinds of circumstances. So everybody on the AEW Blood and Guts show in particular, I thought, really set a great example of that. And also, thankfully, everybody's come out of it okay. It has a potential to be a career-ending match with its hard-hitting situation, but thankfully everybody's good.
It's so interesting because I was going through I was watching an old video of you and Forbes. They did a feature on you back in like 2022 or 2021, and you say like, I'm the CEO, I'm the founder, I'm the book. You go through everything, and that's a lot for one person if they don't have the Jaguars gig, and if they don't have the Fulham job, and everything else that you're doing as well. And so now, as far as AEW is concerned,
the day before our trip, I was sitting at his grave, and I said out loud, I need a sign from you. I need a sign that's undeniable. That undeniable sign is exactly what he gave us.
Wow. Sounds like it's out of Laura Lynn's book, really. Wow. Hello, it's my pleasure to be with you on the Oprah podcast. I know you all have a lot of demands on your time, so I am truly grateful that you chose to spend some of this time here with me. And my hope is that these conversations that we're having can serve to move you, to inspire you, or connect you to an idea you may be hearing about for the first time, or one that you've thought about and went, oh, yes, had an aha, something that could enhance your life. I know so many people struggle after experiencing the loss of somebody you love. And one of the hardest things to bear or to accept is not being able to talk to them anymore. We often hear friends say, maybe you've said yourself, I wish I could have had just one more conversation with my mother or my sister or my husband, whoever has passed. So just one more so I could tell them what I didn't while they were here. Well, my guest today believes that we actually all have that opportunity, and that we all have the capability to hear from our loved ones who have passed on. Now, I have always felt, believed, and there's a knowingness inside of me that is assured that when you lose a loved one, that means you have an angel watching out, or a spirit guide, whatever you choose to name it, it doesn't matter, on the other side. That everybody who passes is still there for you in some way. I've always felt that and have sensed that in my own life. And with me here in the Tea House is a psychic medium and author of 2 New York Times bestsellers. The Light Between Us is one of them, and the other is Signs. Many of you have read both of those books. And she is now out with her newest book. It's called Guided, The Secret Path to an Illuminated Life. Welcome, Laura Lynn Jackson.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so honored to be in the light of you.
Well, thank you for that. Saying that, I love that phrase. I'll be using it now. I think that there is a path to an illuminated life, and that most people are shut down to it. So we're going to be taking some questions from...
You're still the head booker. Is it just you? Are you the judge and jury, or is there a committee? And if so, there's always questions, I think, as to like who's in the committee. So could you tell us like what is the sort of state of the booking process right now?
Well, I put the shows together, and this year I feel like I've been especially hands-on at every episode about every aspect of every segment in a way that I was in Daily's place in the pandemic. And at the beginning of the year, I kind of said, since the last year's holidays, that I was going to step back and look at it for a moment like I did 5 years earlier. And Christmas 2019, I had said, there's a couple things that I knew might not work, and I did them against my best judgment. So why would I ever do that? Don't ever do that. And it's like a diet. You do your best to stick to it. Nobody's perfect, but every once in a while I still might do something against my better judgment. But I kind of told myself, stop doing things against your better judgment. So even in January, and it was the same exact thing too, where in January 2020, there were 1 or 2 things where I said, why did I do that? I said I wasn't going to do that, but then kind of caught myself, and I did that again this year. And I really felt like it's been a lot like the shows like I would have put together in the pandemic, where I come in with more of an outline of everything I want to do, but I also like hearing everyone's ideas and I utilize them. So I feel like we have a really good group of people. It's evolving and changing, and the one consistent thing is there's one person that's at all the shows, and it's me. And that's the thing, is there's not any other one person that goes to every show. Okay. There's 104 Dynamites and Collisions, because now that there's Dynamite and Collision, there's 2 shows a week. Wednesday nights, Dynamite on TBS, and now HBO Max as well. Saturday nights, Collision on TNT, also on HBO Max, like this Saturday, but it's on an hour earlier for the tailgate brawl. Well, the only person that goes to all those TVs and the pay-per-views is me. There's not one other person. There's a lot of great people that help out, people that work in different departments, wrestling, creative, and they could be coaches, it could be senior figures. I have great people who could contribute ideas, like everybody from Bryan Danielson, who's an all-time legend in wrestling, but also has some great ideas, and different people on the staff. And it's a great group of women and men, but among all of them, the only person that goes to every TV is me. So I have a pretty consistent idea of what I'd like to do, but also whoever's in the room of coaches and staff that day, I will talk to them and hear out their ideas, but it might be a different group. It's kind of like, do you like Ghostbusters?
I used to, yeah.
You know that scene in Ghostbusters? I always think of it this way, and this is pretty convoluted, but this will give you insight into my thinking. There's a scene in Ghostbusters with Ray and Winston, and
is this the original?
The original Ghostbusters, and they're just driving in the car down on the bridge here in New York. And it's Ray and Winston. And then I realized, and I'm like, that's not the 2 that you always see together. It's just like shifts, and like you get different pairs of people. And like, if that makes sense, like, you might see Ray with Egon, or you might see him with Bankman, Bill Murray, or with Winston. But it was like, it's different shifts. Like, the whole movie, it hasn't just been Ray and Winston, but they're in the car now. This is their day. This is their shift. Within every group of people, there's subgroups, and it's not always the ones you think when you see the people walk and stand together. So I have a different group of people at almost a different combination of people than I did at the beginning, but I think there's been a common thread and a consistency. And I like that from show to show because I feel like I have a good sense of what AEW is, and I am a fan of wrestling, but also since I've been here, I feel like I, have...
The amount of experience you can gain from the University of Akron can't be overstated, whether it's designing components, manufacturing.
Through the years, followed the fans. I like to stay in touch with the fans and hear what they like and don't like about the show. And I feel like 2025 in particular, I think we've done a really good job of listening to the fans and putting on a really good show, and I would say that start to finish so far, we're in November, I think as far as doing the TV every week and the pay-per-views, this is my favorite year of shows, personally.
Okay.
And everybody, it's cool thing about wrestling is it's all opinions. But for me, as far as how many great matches and how consistent everything's been and how happy I've been coming out of the events, it's my favorite year yet.
You mentioned HBO Max. That deal started a couple of months ago where your pay-per-views are available on HBO Max, which is very cool. As you know, UFC's deal on pay-per-view is coming to an end, right, with the Paramount Plus. That's a huge... So they're now going to be on Paramount Plus, and it'll just be their numbered events, but not behind that extra paywall. Do you think we will ever get to a point... Because you're one of the last ones left now, AEW, right?
Well, yeah.
Will we get to a point ever where maybe it'll be behind a subscription paywall, the pay-per-views, but not that extra price to get the actual show? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. I think with AEW, something I've been really conscious of and have tried to stay consistent with is maintaining great prices for families or friends to come and watch the shows at an affordable price to be an AEW fan, and I think we've done a fantastic job with that. So it's a great question. Now, the pay-per-view price for AEW has been consistent from day one. It's the same price it's always been to order the pay-per-views.
What is it?
It's on cable and satellite, it's $49.99, and now you can get the events, lots of outlets that we've added over the years for that price for $49.99. Amazon Prime, YouTube, a lot of great places that are great partners, but our media partnership that really drives the engine that is AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery.
Okay.
And so we're on TBS every Wednesday, we're on TNT every Saturday, but also now this year, and I talked about how it's been this awesome year, a key thing that really felt like a switch that got flipped even more than usual to start the season, so-called, in AEW this new year. There's always a great energy at the start of the year, the calendar year in AEW, because the records reset. It's a fresh start for the wrestlers in a new season. But also this year, it was the beginning of putting the shows on HBO Max. Now the pay-per-views are also on HBO Max, and it's only been a few months of this, but it's really been working out very well, and it's also great for the fans because it's the lowest price. It's $39.99, and if you're an HBO Max subscriber already, that's a great deal because you're saving $10 a month on these great pay-per-views. We get great satisfaction from our fans on our shows. It's really means a lot to me because I was a kid and my parents would not let me buy every single wrestling pay-per-view. So I really appreciate whenever people do put the money in for every show, and that's why I try to put so much into every pay-per-view and make it feel like you really got your money's worth out of this show. And especially now with on-demand DVRs and the shows being available to stream, you can always go back and watch them again and again. And I see some of your wrestling posters and pay-per-view posters, and again, these are shows that I would watch again and again and again. So I hope and believe that the AEW shows are like that with the pay-per-views we put on. And so to your question, I think we have a great model right now, and we just signed a great media rights deal that I think even the most stringent analyst would say is a really strong deal for AEW, the company, and makes a lot of sense for us. And it also shows the faith that Warner Brothers, TBS, TNT, and HBO Max have in AEW.
Do you have any concern about the future of WBD? There's some talk that they're going to, have a new ownership. Even yesterday, I saw that Saudi Arabia interested in purchasing them. Do you have any concerns about how a new ownership would affect your standing, your deal with them?
Well, I feel really great about AEW's relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery, and I think it's a great situation for us that we're one of those strong franchises, like I said, on multiple channels and properties where AEW's clearly very strongly figured in. Just as an example, we've got the huge pay-per-view this Saturday. It's presented by DC as a presenting sponsor, which I think is anybody looking at Warner Brothers would say that this is a really important part of the portfolio, DC. And for DC to be sponsoring us and also the kinds of collaborations they're doing with us, We partnered on Dynamite episode 300 the week before AEW All In Texas. There were ads and collabs with the stars of Superman, with stars from AEW. There's been some great partnerships across DC now doing comic books with AEW, with the big stars from AEW, crossover in comics. And we did a panel with DC at New York Comic Con. And then also DC now, for the first time ever, presenting an AEW pay-per-view, and it's this Saturday. So we're becoming a bigger and bigger part, AEW, as we've grown, and now it's been 6 years of AEW. We've continued to become a bigger part of the Warner Brothers family. So I feel like no matter what happens in the future, I think we will be a really important part of that family. And also for different media properties, thankfully, because I'm on the NFL Fan Engagement and Major Events Committee and have had a lot of experience in football in the NFL and in the Premier League, and now with AEW, dealing with a lot of media partners. I have strong relationships with almost every media property out there. You know, thankfully, the NFL is and continues to be the strongest media and sports organization, in my opinion, in the world.
Yes.
And the NFL is in a really strong position, and we deal with a lot of these great partnerships. My dad is basically any committee I'm not on, my dad's on, and he's involved in probably about half of the NFL committees, and there's very few and far between that he's not involved in some way, whether it's business ventures and all the different finances and every aspect of the league practically he's involved in. So he's really, really built such an amazing thing, and I'm so lucky to be in the position I'm in, but also I've learned so much from him. And I have to say that, you know, he's built these great relationships, and now with AEW, I built a lot of relationships, and between the two of us, we've engaged with almost every media property and have great relationships. So I think that's going to continue. But most importantly, for AEW, we've got a great relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery and the leadership right now, and that has put us in this great position for AEW.
I was thinking of this earlier today. I do believe off the top of my head, the only major combat sports entity right now that does not have any sort of business relationship with Saudi Arabia. UFC does, WWE of course does, in boxing, Matchroom, Queensberry, Top Rank, Golden Boy, they all do. I think you're the only one. Is there any particular reason for that?
Style and substance in the GMC Sierra. Or get
I can't speak to that. I'm not sure. I didn't realize that. But it's interesting. And no, I think AEW, we've got great partnerships. We work with probably some of the same media partners you do. But no, I'm not sure why that would be. But
just a coincidence.
I guess it would. Okay. Yeah, but it's interesting. I never thought of it like that till you said it.
Okay. You know, something that I was really curious about, and I hadn't really heard you asked about this, so would love to hear your thoughts. It is very clear to me as an outsider that when you're putting on a big show, WWE tries to counter-program it. How do you react when this happens? Do you think this is being done on purpose?
I do think it's done on purpose, and I understand it, and it's part of wrestling, and I think we've seen a lot of it, but I think other wrestling promotions that have been the Challenger Wrestling brand in our lifetime have seen a lot of it. Jim Crockett Promotions, which was the forerunner to WCW, saw a lot of this, and Jim Crockett Promotions ended up having to sell the company to Ted Turner, who then made a great run. It took a while. And really, if you look, Ted Turner took over at the start of 1989, and the strongest run came over 6 years later, almost 7 years later it started, really, when business peaked and took off their peak years. So it's interesting because as a Challenger Wrestling promotion, you've got a great opportunity, but it's really hard. It involves tons of investment to build up to be a true, strong challenger, and that's why we took the risk with AEW when we did. I do think that we've seen that kind of counter-programming and those things, and I understand, and looking back at wrestling history, kind of expect that. And
does it frustrate you?
I think it's okay because for us, it's always worked out and we're in a great position. So it hasn't ever been a thing where it's cost us anything. And even when you do something like AEW All In Texas, where we do the show in the afternoon, it really worked out for us great. And it was one of the best days in the history of the company. So
you don't take it personally. You're not like, can you guys just leave me alone? Can I just have the day for myself? The one in Toronto, right? You put it earlier in the day because they had the ESPN debut. And so, you'd have to be an idiot to not think that this is being done on purpose. UFC used to do this with their competition back in the day. And so I was just curious how you react internally to this.
Well, it's very interesting. I think that it's something that is a part of the wrestling business, and I definitely don't take it personally. I think it's no more personal to me than it was towards Jim Crockett, or even maybe less so than it was with Ted Turner, or similar amounts as with Ted Turner. But definitely, I think all of us have seen that kind of counter programming and could speak to that. And certainly with AEW, I'm very proud that we continue to really run strong and be that great challenger brand in pro wrestling. AEW is where the best wrestle. I really believe that. And I think we have the best roster in wrestling today and the best wrestlers, and put on the best shows like this Saturday.
My impression, I look at a lot of things, I listen to a lot of things. I feel like there's a lot of these like YouTube pundits, especially like the old timers, so to speak, and I hope they don't take offense to this, but the guys who have been there, done that, who feel like it seems to me like they have an axe to grind with you.
It's interesting because...
Why do you think this is?
I don't know. I think
you know what I'm talking about, right? Like,
sure, I do.
The Cornettes, the Bischoffs, like every single video, if you type in your name, it's never complimentary of AEW or yourself.
It clearly does engagement for them to talk about AEW, because you wouldn't spend such a large percentage of your real estate, and you wouldn't devote such a large percentage of your content to talking about AEW unless it was engaging. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a 100%. Smart strategy.
Why do you think they do it so much?
Well, we're ongoing. We're putting on wrestling 52 weeks a year, and people want to talk about current events. And right now, AEW is a huge part of the wrestling landscape. We put great shows on. Tomorrow is a Wednesday night, and we're going to have a great Wednesday Night Dynamite tomorrow. And I think that any given week, you can count on there's going to be AEW putting on new content to talk about. And we're one of the major wrestling brands that people are going to want to discuss. And a big part of the wrestling landscape is AEW. So I think
100%.
People want to talk about the new wrestling, talk about the current wrestlers. And as I see all this stuff here, I want to try and get some AEW. I'm going to send you some AEW stuff.
I appreciate that.
We'll put that. We'll hopefully make that part of the set, because you're a big wrestling fan.
Yes,
you got wrestlers
yes.
And great memorabilia. I might try to get a Jaguar even up here with the Buffalo Bills.
Let's not get crazy about that.
Okay, but
we
this
got
is great.
Forrest and the Bills. You can't. We actually were playing you guys end of December at Craven Cottage.
Yeah, we've had some great battles over the years with Nottingham Forest and with the Buffalo Bills.
Is it fair though? Is it fair? Like, do you feel like sometimes they hit you below the belt?
I don't want to. I think that is the business strategy. I think that's a pretty consistent business strategy of WWE that has not changed with the ownership change. And so,
okay, so that's WWE. So I'm talking about the pundits, like these guys who are analyzing every single move, every single creative decision.
I think it's ironic coming from Eric, because Eric sat in the position and he was making a lot of great moves, and Eric had a run that is unbelievably successful when you look back at what he accomplished from 1995 to 1998, and it was unbelievable. And he still did some good things in those other years, and he did a lot, and it wasn't like everything he did in 1995 and 1998 was 100% perfect 52 weeks a year, but he did some really incredible things, and the sum of his accomplishments is unbelievable, and he still talks about it to this day. And 83 weeks is something that is synonymous with Eric and his brand, and it's a name of his show. It's incredibly impressive. I also was one of the wrestling fans as a kid when I was like 11, 12, 13 years old, who was critical at times of some of the things Eric did, but also appreciative at times. And I was more balanced than other people, but I understand what it is to be a wrestling fan and to have certain things you want and expect out of a wrestling show. I think that...
How many years has Allstate donated to participating schools for every field goal and extra point made? 20 years. That's not...
Eric did a lot of those things, so he has a really good understanding of what it is to be on TBS and be on TNT and put on pay-per-views and work with the executives at Turner. Even some of the people who've been there for 30 years have worked with both of us through different administrations, which is incredible.
Wow.
So I talked to him about that at times. So I do think for Eric, I respect...
Recently or no?
It's been a while, but not that long. And I I respect his opinions, and I think he talks about AEW a lot because AEW's on every Wednesday night, every Saturday night, and then it gives them good content to talk about. So I think in his case, I think it's interesting because he spends a lot of time talking about AEW, but I think he's also cognizant that there were a lot of media personalities and former wrestling promoters that had strong vocal opinions of him. And I'm not trying to say that I've done more than him or I think that one thing that was cool this year was when we hit a milestone that's not a round number, but episode 289 of Wednesday Night Dynamite is remembered as one of the best ones. We're going to be in Boston tomorrow. We're back for Wednesday Night Dynamite, and it's going to be a great show tomorrow. And the last time we did Dynamite in Boston before tomorrow was Spring Breakthrough in April. And it set a huge accomplishment for us. It was such a big thing that I sent it to even top Warner Brothers executives who were really happy with it because I actually think it was probably the best week of media coverage that we've ever had until I came on your show today. This has been great. But now this is going to be a great week for AEW. But the last time we were in Boston before tomorrow's show on TBS and HBO Max is something I'm really proud of because it made us the longest running primetime pro wrestling show ever on TBS or TNT, and that includes the great shows that they put on. And
he gave you props for that.
He did, and it meant a lot to me, so I appreciated that. So thank you for bringing that up. I thought that was really cool, and so it's mixed opinions, right? And everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I also think Eric's in a unique position because he was in the chair, and he did have to make a lot of decisions. And he also knows that you can't go backwards, you can only go forwards, and you can only learn from the things you've done. So I'm very fortunate, I think about it all the time, to still be in the chair because you can make a mistake, and if you make a series of mistakes and you go down a wrong path in pro wrestling, you can end up in a place that nobody comes back from. And look how many people in pro wrestling went down that door of making a mistake after mistake, and then they were gone. And sometimes it's not their fault. It's due to extenuating circumstances you can't control. But I'm fortunate that if I make a mistake, that I've always been able to go back and look at it or figure out what can we do to make the next show perfect or make sure I don't do that again, because I really think that course correcting, making sure that we are always on point for the next show is a really strong aspect of AEW. I think that's part of the consistency. And, you know, on the one hand, I could say I've only been a wrestling promoter for 6.5 years, and I've only been booking and producing wrestling shows for 6.5 years. On the other hand, that's one of the longest runs anybody's ever had.
Sure.
So I've been fortunate to learn a lot of things, and I'm fortunate that tomorrow I get to do another one, and Saturday I get to do another pay-per-view, and I'm never ungrateful for that. I'm always very grateful to the fans who watch the shows that we're still in this position.
Speaking of the fans, there's always a lot of talk about ratings, about attendance. Honest assessment of where you're at right now from a ratings perspective and attendance perspective.
Thank you for that. I'm very excited. We're coming off of an awesome event this past week and awesome ratings. We had a great week. We were one of the top shows on cable.
Okay.
And this year...
What did that do? I don't know the...
It was... so I don't have all the numbers of the DVR, and I don't know the streaming numbers. You got to remember that we have a lot of fans who watch on HBO Max now, but on TBS, it was 600,000, and it was, in our time slot, one of the top shows, and it ranked somewhere in the top 10 on cable for the entire night. And in its time slot, I think it was along with ESPN and Fox News, TBS was one of the top 3 channels. And it was also, to me, if you add in what I would believe we have on our streaming audience, more people watching than last year's Blood and Guts. And our audience this year, our cable...
Do you know what the streaming numbers are?
No, I don't have them.
They don't tell you?
No, I don't have them.
Okay.
And I honestly don't know how many people would have watched, but knowing that it was our most watched show in months on TBS, I would expect it was probably our most watched show in months on streaming. From what I've seen in sports, we don't get every streaming number from every game with all the data, but I do know from the NFL that there's a healthy and growing audience that watches the events on streaming. So I think that TBS is still our kind of bread and butter on Wednesdays and TNT on Saturdays, but I think that's a growing part of the audience, especially in the younger demographics. What's been really exciting for us is at the beginning of the year, I was thinking that there was a possibility, okay, we have this audience at the end of 2024. I was here in New York for the holiday shows. We're coming back again to do Christmas Collision and Dynamite on 34th Street around the holidays.
Yes, Hammerstein, right?
At Hammerstein.
Yes.
They were great events last year, and they really set the stage to come in and have this great year we're having now. And, you know, looking at it back then, I was thinking, okay, well, the new year's about to start. This is uncharted territory. We've never done the simulcast. We've never done Dynamite live on Wednesday. It's still on TBS, but now we're also going to have people watching on HBO Max. Collision's still going to be on TNT, but we'll have people watching on HBO Max. My thought is we're going to have some new viewers that have never watched before coming on HBO Max. We're also possibly going to have some cord cutters that have been away from cable coming back to AEW on HBO Max. But I was prepared for a possibility that there could be some erosion or cannibalization of the cable audience, which did not happen. It came out the other way. In Q1, Q2, and Q3, if you look, our share went up and our total audience went up.
Okay.
So we have this really great success story. Now, it's interesting because we don't get the same kind of numbers. In Q4, there's been this big change in the Nielsen system.
Yes.
Which is why it was great to see this huge number we did last week for us, because it was like, well, that's the best number we've done since the change. And so clearly there was a great response to it. But also Collision the previous Saturday had done the best number it had done since the change in this system. So we're seeing good response, and we've really closed the gap. It's kind of like in the pandemic. If you look at where AEW is as a percentage of the WWE shows, this is really one of our strongest runs. And if you look at where WWE is, say the audience of Dynamite compared to SmackDown, for example, or Raw, this is a great time for us. And you would say that along with some of the peak times in AEW, this is right there as 2025 right now, what's happening, that the AEW audience as a percentage of the competition is about as good as it's ever been. And with the streaming audience, like I said at the start of the year, I wasn't sure if the cable audience, where they would go. And actually with the cable audience at the start of the year and then again as the year went on grew. So that was pretty exciting. And so from the first 3 quarters, that's the case. And now they track the data differently. So we'll see how this goes. But we're in the 4th quarter, and so far it's been this awesome year.
I'd be remiss if I don't ask you about the CM Punk story. Do you have any regrets about how that was all handled? Obviously, he came on the show. There was that big interview, and then you guys played that footage. Looking back, are you at peace with how it all played out, or do you wish things could have been done differently?
Hey, it's Tyson from the All-American Rejects, and guess what? We have been having a crazy time on TikTok, haven't we? It's been a freaking party. Well, we're ready to light your panties back on fire for this next round of house parties. We got new music we're teasing along the way, and I didn't mean that about the panties. I don't want to set anybody's underwear on fire. There's microplastics in there. That is dangerous. But if you want to tune in to where the matches are, and then it strikes you with the mood, and the mood strikes, then follow us on TikTok. Come on, baby, light my fire. Ooh, that is flammable. Turn it off.
Well, there were so many things. So like
the playing the footage. Did you think that was the best move in response? Because it felt like that was in response to the interview. To your interview. That's what it felt like.
It's interesting because I do think that I didn't necessarily agree with the description of how it all happened.
So that was your way of showing this is our side.
Not necessarily. And by the way, I really think you're a great interviewer, and I very much appreciate it because we've had a very, very good interview, and I think I've been very good to answer all the questions
you have.
so far. And now you've got me where I'm enjoying talking to you so much. You've really got me hooked in. So I want to answer your questions, even the challenging ones. And I didn't necessarily agree with everything that was said in that interview about how things happened, but also it's a TV show, and it did a very strong number. And if you look, it was...
Are you talking about the video response from you guys?
Yes. Okay. So for many reasons, I think that it made sense, and it was a thing that was advertised, and it got a lot of attention that did a very strong number, and also it's in the eye of the beholder.
Was there anything he said that you want to now refute?
I think the tape spoke for itself, and I think that I didn't agree with how it happened, and obviously was a major part of why things were no longer able to continue with us, even though I would have liked to have been able to. And it's clear that I wanted to reconcile and do those things. And
you wish that maybe like by him leaving and then showing up on WWE like 2 months later, that was a huge boost, right?
I think really for us, we've had a great run for 6 years. And if you look at the time before Phil came to AEW, we were having a great run and we had some great times together. But we've been on a great run and we're having this great year right now with this roster. And I think this is the best roster and the best AEW locker room. And it feels like in and out of the ring, the combination of them, this is the best we've been. But I also think that we had great times together. And it was clear when we started doing Collision, I wanted to reconcile and find a way to still do those things. And I guess that wasn't possible. But I didn't necessarily agree with everything.
Did you learn any lessons? Because one of the things that he said in that interview was that, like, you know, and I hope you don't think this is coming from me.
Sure.
I'm paraphrasing that, like, you know, you don't stand up as a boss, you let people kind of like walk all over you. And so that felt like an indictment on you as the leader of the company, which is what you are. And so I'm wondering what your response would be to that.
I don't agree with that, but I also think that everybody's entitled to their opinion, and that's feedback, and it's fair if that's how he feels. But I didn't agree with the description of the way things played out, and that's okay. And that's all in the eye of the beholder. Just like the whole situation, if you see the way it came out, it all was in the eye of the beholder, and that's okay. I think AEW is doing really well right now, and I'm really happy with what the people on the shows are doing. And it wasn't the first time that he and I disagreed about something, and it may not ever be the last, and that's okay. But I had tried to reconcile, and I wanted to find a way for everybody to be able to work together, and that didn't work, and that's okay. And it seems like everybody's happier and doing better right now. I know in AEW right now, everybody's really happy, and it feels like this is the best the locker room's been since the Jacksonville lockdown days. And we had over a year of shows. And I said at the beginning of the year, I wanted to bring that mentality to every show for everybody, that either how I put it together or the way we all interact or the way we all just sit down and are straight with each other and don't let the distance grow, because in Jacksonville, it felt like the locker room was super, super tight. And then we became nomads again and we went on the road, and it wasn't like that. And this year it really has been. And it feels like this is probably the closest it's been since the beginning of AEW. And then we took that spirit of the very beginning of AEW and became even more tight-knit, living in a bubble together, doing shows in a bubble together through the pandemic and putting on shows every week together, never stopping the shows. And that's how I got close to the UFC and Dana White, because...
Are you guys still close?
Yeah, we are.
You still talk?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
We do. And I talked to Dana still, and I saw him recently. We sat together at a football game. We are both... friends of Dan Lambert, and we both sat together at the Miami Hurricanes game.
That's right.
I went to watch a game with James Gladstone, the GM of the Jaguars, and Tony Baselli, who's legend, Hall of Fame NFL player, and executive vice president of the Jaguars, and the three of us went to the Miami game, and Dan invited us, and we were sitting with Dana.
That's amazing.
It was great.
I love to hear that.
It was great.
Unfortunately, we're rounding third here because I think you're very busy.
No, I'll stay.
You'll stay?
You need.
Okay.
Whatever you need.
This is such a rare opportunity to speak to you. You're the guy at AEW, and there was a lot of questions that came in about the status of certain big names in the company. So can I ask you about a few people in the company? You know, there was the story with Andrade who showed up, and then he was taken off TV, and the reports were a cease and desist, that he wasn't able to be on. Can you clear this up? What happened?
Okay, so so far I've answered every question.
You have, yes.
And
you've done a great job.
I'm batting 1,000.
This has been a 180 from the last one.
Well, I appreciate that.
Nothing frustrating today.
I appreciate that, and we're doing a great job, and I want to try to keep it going.
Yes.
I think the world of Andrade. I had a great experience with him, and he left on the best of terms.
This is back in the day.
This was the original time.
Yeah.
And now, when he said he was free and made his one-night appearance, I was thrilled to see him again. And anytime he's free and whenever that is, he is absolutely always welcome in AEW.
Did he misrepresent his status?
I can't speak to that.
Fair enough.
But I really, and it's the first time I've said that to you, but I do appreciate that. And it is an interesting situation that I am going to keep an eye on, but I absolutely think the world of Andrade El Idolo.
What's the state of Chris Jericho's relationship with the company?
Chris Jericho is somebody who's in AEW and has been with us from the very beginning. He's been away from us for a bit, but he's
since April, right? His last appearance was in April.
Yeah, and he's somebody that's had, even this year, great matches with Bandito, somebody that's been a world champion for us and was really, at the very beginning of AEW, absolutely as key and instrumental as any individual in the launch of AEW. And I love Chris personally and professionally. I just reached out and wished him a happy birthday recently. I'm very excited about everything Chris has done in AEW, and he continues to be with us. And, he's always
Is he going to be back?
I can't speak to that, but I love having Chris in AEW, and he's always welcome. The door's always open for Chris to come in.
What is the reason for his departure for now?
During the Black Friday super sale at Furniture Row, the more you buy, the more you save. Save $100 on every $1,000 you spend and watch the savings add up. Check out special purchases while they last. Plus 60 months, no interest. The Black Friday super sale on now at Furniture Row.
Touch can mean so many things, even for people with moderate to severe eczema. Touch can make players celebrate like winners, or make two move like one. Dupixent can help you stay ahead of eczema as you welcome the feeling of touch. Dupixent helps block a key source of inflammation inside the body that can cause eczema to help heal your skin from within. Many adults saw 90% clearer skin. Some even achieved long-lasting clearer skin and fast itch relief after the first dose. Severe allergic reactions, including skin reactions, can occur. Get help right away for face, mouth, tongue, or throat swelling, wheezing, or trouble breathing. Tell your doctor of new or worsening eye problems like eye pain or vision changes, skin symptoms, joint aches and pain, or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop other treatments without talking to your doctor. Dupixent, the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists and allergists, helps you feel the heal. See the difference for yourself. Reach out to your eczema specialist today.
Archer for now?
It's a very good question, and it's some of it comes down to just working out the dates. And
is this deal almost up?
I would rather not get into that, but also I respect you asking about it, and if I could give as much information as possible to try and keep a very constructive dialogue.
Do you think we'll see him back in AEW?
I hope so. I absolutely hope we'll get Chris back in, and a star like Chris Jericho. You negotiate a certain number of dates, and Chris has always been really great about being one of those wrestlers in AEW that when he's in, he's all the way in. And if you think, he's always really been a full-time part of the show.
Sure.
And at first, when we started, we talked about finding ways with Chris and Fozzy and his band to keep him involved because he was such a central figure as the original AEW World Champion, as Le Champion. So there were times where Chris would have videos in Dynamite or make appearances. Even when he offered Jon Moxley my dad's car, that was actually my dad's car, to join the Inner Circle in Jacksonville, Chris was actually on his way to the Tokyo Dome, and we had filmed that over the holidays, knowing Chris was going to be going to Japan. So he filmed this video that we played for Mox to watch after the Mox versus Trent match in Jacksonville on New Year's Day. And then Mox himself then left for Japan right after that. But it was Jericho was wrestling Tanahashi and got over early to do media. And that was on the Tokyo Dome in 2020. And it's amazing to think now here we are almost 6 years later. And Chris has been a huge part of AEW from the very beginning. And we started out early like, okay, how can we find ways to, keep Chris involved if he needed a week or two off. And then pretty soon Chris was just here every week and wanted to be here every week. And we love having him. So if we can work out all the dates and all the things, I would always love for him to be here. But he's one of my favorite wrestlers, and certainly he's as instrumental to the launch of AEW as anybody.
What's up with Britt Baker?
Britt Baker is somebody that I love and respect, who's also been in AEW from the very beginning. And she had been away at times for health reasons, and she had some injuries. And I'm just looking for the right time with Britt. And I've had really good talks with Britt, who I really, really like. I think Britt's a great person in and out of the ring. She's so impressive. To have somebody that went to medical school, earned their degree, is practiced, and also has wrestled at a high level and juggled all these things. I think it's really impressive. And as somebody who juggles a lot of jobs and a lot of work, I respect Britt's work ethic a lot. she's also a great wrestler. So I would love to have Britt back in AEW, and Britt is going to be back, I really believe, in AEW, and I hope soon. But it's going to be the right situation for her and everybody involved, and I want to make sure she's 100%, and that's important to me. And I really care about the health and well-being of all the wrestlers. And in Britt's case, I think she can come in and still be a huge part of AEW, and I expect she will.
Did WWE ever ask to use Adam Copeland as part of the John Cena retirement tour?
No.
Is his deal up at any point to where he could be used?
I mean, I never say never in wrestling, because I would imagine they could always extend that date past the end of the year. But no, Adam's going to be here with us through the year, and he's really a huge part of AEW.
Because they're bringing, like yesterday, they brought back Dolph Ziggler and some other, Matt Cardona came back last week, and so there was this big push for him to be the last one. But obviously, he's under contract with you. I was wondering if there was ever a conversation about that.
Adam Copeland is a huge part of AEW, and I have so much respect for him, and I really, really like Adam a lot, and I'm glad to have him here. And he's away filming, but he's with us, and he's going to stay with us.
MJF, when do you think he'll be back?
I expect Max to be back, hopefully very soon. Okay. Max is somebody who has been a huge part of why this has been a great year, and even though he hasn't been available every single week, I think he's done some really great things in and out of the ring this year. And if you look at what Max accomplished with Happy Gilmore 2, he's had some amazing matches. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. And it was really one of the marquee performances to where I can go into almost any office in Hollywood or any entertainment office, and people have seen the movie and know Max's role, even if they don't watch wrestling, which speaks to how successful that movie was, how big of a role that was for him, and how great of a job Max is doing as a crossover star. But he's also wrestled at such a high level. And if you look at his matches, first of all, I want to spend some time talking about how great, because I mentioned him at the very beginning when we were running down the Full Gear card, but I haven't gotten to talk a lot about somebody who's been a huge part of the success of AEW this year, Hangman Page.
Yes.
I briefly mentioned this Saturday, Hangman Page versus Samoa Joe in the steel cage match. I could also talk a lot about Samoa Joe and how huge a part of AEW Samoa Joe is. But MJF and Hangman had a great match at Revolution. They had a great match at Forbidden Door. Their rivalry was outstanding, and MJF also had great matches with Mark Briscoe, and was involved in a Casino Gauntlet match at AEW All in Texas, and some great matches in addition to this starring role in Happy Gilmore 2 that was really good promotion for him and for AEW.
This is great. Everything's very transparent. I appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you are as well. I'm just firing away names, so I hope you don't mind it.
No, this is good.
I'm not trying to be confrontational or anything with this. What happened with Ric Flair last week?
Ric
I
Flair.
saw him post a thing apologizing for having to leave and not, he was advertised, right? So
he was at the show. He was at
there,
the show. So for anybody who bought a ticket and thought they were going to see Ric Flair come out, he did come out. Ric Flair, he tore his rotator cuff. The AEW doctors had looked at him because he had a fall and torn his rotator cuff. He's a little bit older now, but he's still in great shape. You see videos of Ric Flair lifting weights and working out, and he pushes himself really hard. He's still a good athlete. He's still a great athlete. He's deadlifting 500 pounds and doing these crazy workouts. And Rick had a fall, and he came in and he had an injury, and the doctors, he had torn rotator cuff, and he said, I really feel terrible. And I said, Rick, I don't think you should be going out and doing anything in the ring or even getting into the ring. I think maybe you and I just go out at the start of the show. And he said, honestly, he was in a lot of pain. He might be good for him to go home anyway. And so what we did is Rick and I went out and said hi to the fans before the show started.
Okay.
It's blood and guts. So I introduced Rick, and obviously with this big 2-ring double steel cage match and everything that comes with it, the fans were going to get really amped for this. So I thought a great way to pump the fans up, we had a trailer that we had played online. It was a 3-minute video. So for any of the fans in the arena that hadn't seen it yet, we played that video, and Rick and I went out and said hello. He said he really loves being in AEW, and he thinks the world of the AEW wrestlers, and great to see the fans. And then we queued up the video. But Rick was in a lot of pain, so I didn't know when we had advertised he would be there that he was going to have a torn rotator cuff. I think it actually happened right before the show. So then I thought, let's just let Rick go home early, and for the fans here in Greensboro, he's going to go say hi. And then in the event, he really was not in any shape physically to go out there with a rotator cuff. And he also took the sling off to go out there.
Okay.
But he was in a sling, and he didn't want to go out in the sling, so we just went out and said hi, and then he put it back on.
What happened with Miro?
Confidence is not a mindset. It's an achievement. In the GMC Sierra HD AT4X. Get 5.9% APR on 2025 GMC Sierra heavy-duty models.
The smartest people on earth know how to spot a good deal. That's why they shop at Ollie's First. You'll save up to 70% off the fancy store's prices. So you go, you smart and savvy shopper. You know where the real deals are, where they sell good stuff cheap.
Ollie's! Good stuff cheap!
With Miro.
Miro is a great wrestler, and he was great in AEW. He was a TNT champion, and I think he and I just had, at times, different visions of things, but that's okay, because everybody's entitled to different opinions and different ideas, and really, that's what this all is. It's different ideas, and we just kind of drifted into some different ideas of what we thought we should be doing, and that's okay, and I think he'd worked in WWE before, and that clearly was a good experience for him. So he clearly was excited to go back, and he did go back. So I wish him the best, and that's what he's doing now. But that must make sense for him, and that must be why he wanted to do it.
Do you have, or did you have any interest in Killer Kross?
I have not spoken to him in many, many years.
I thought he was a layup for you guys.
It's
given
interesting
how that all played out.
That's interesting. I'm not sure. I like Killer Kross. It'd be interesting at some point to talk to him again. It's been a long time since I've talked to Killer Kross, and it would be interesting. He's
so when he became free, you guys didn't chat?
I haven't yet. He did some stuff with Darby that I was involved with Darby in terms of clearing the schedule for Darby to do an independent match with him here in New York.
Yep.
And they did a match, which I was involved in that. And Darby and I were actually at the Comic-Con together that day promoting DC, AEW Full Gear, and the comic books with AEW and DC. And Darby went right from the Comic-Con panel where he assaulted Mox.
Yes, I remember that with the glass.
Got a lot of attention. He smashed the glass pitcher on Mox, Mox is so awesome. And he did so great on that panel. I mean, to have somebody like that that's such a great champion and a great ambassador and a great leader, we're so lucky to have Jon Moxley in AEW, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. But Darby also is so important, and their rivalry has helped fuel us. And
wait, Killer Kross.
We like Killer Kross. I like him, and I went that night. I had a lot of things going on, and I actually wanted to go see his match, but Darby had to be hustled out, and we still had events. So Darby left early to go do that match with Killer Kross, which was great that he was able to do both things. So I didn't get to see him that night. That would have been a great chance to connect with him.
Okay.
We
make this happen?
Yeah, he's great. I think he's tremendous. He's
him and Scarlett are a great duo. I think they've got a great thing, and they were red hot towards the end, were they not? Were you surprised that WWE didn't sign him?
It's interesting. I mean, you never know what's going on with different wrestlers and different wrestling organizations, so I can't speak to that, but I think he is very talented, and Darby said he had a great experience with him, so it would definitely be worth reconnecting. I mean, we get so deep in our foxholes and thinking about the different things we're doing, and sometimes I get so laser focused on one thing, as you can see, that I think about those things, but at some point, he's definitely a great name to think about.
Okay, I'll ask you one more name. Will Ospreay. When do we see him again? What's up with him?
Boy, I love Will Ospreay. So Will Ospreay is such an amazing part of AEW. And again, talk about somebody who's contributed to why I think this has been a great year for us. He was a huge part of last year. And this year, before his injury, he was just wrestling, in my opinion, at the very, very highest level. And that match with Will Ospreay and Hangman Page to determine who would win the Owen Hart Foundation Cup and who would go on to All In Texas to wrestle Mox for the world title. Hangman won the match. And Hangman versus Will Ospreay, I think they're both great challengers and two great stars that you can build a promotion around. And what a great night Double or Nothing was, I thought, and what a great main event they had. Will Ospreay is somebody I'm glad you asked about. He's recovering from the injuries. I talk to him regularly. He's doing better.
Is it a neck?
It's a neck.
Yeah.
And I think he's been pretty open about it. So I don't want to talk out of turn about somebody's injuries, but Will's been pretty open that he's on the recovery. He's on the mend. He really appreciates the support from all the fans around the world. And Will Ospreay is going to be back in AEW, or I think hopefully earlier next year. I can't say exactly when, but it'll be next year.
That's good
And
news.
I hope it'll be in the first half of next year.
Okay.
And he's one of our great stars, so I think it is great news because certainly when Will Ospreay's on the shows every week, it's great for us.
I lied. One more name, Adam Cole.
That's hard. That's hard. Adam Cole, I love so much, and I think Adam Cole's such a great wrestler, but also he's a really good friend. And it was very, very hard when I got the phone call the morning of All In Texas that Adam Cole was not feeling well. And he's had injuries, and it's no secret some of the injuries he's experienced have been head injuries. And it was terrible when Adam Cole had the ankle injury, and when he needed time to recover, it was just, you don't want to see him in so much pain, but also it could have been, that alone could have been a career-ending injury, and he was out for over a year. And he came back from that, and he was wrestling at such a high level. And I was really excited about what Adam Cole had done in 2025 to work his way into a top position and become the TNT champion. And it was a great comeback story. And
sleepless nights keep staring out my window, hoping you will come home. It's been a while, I keep trying to reach you, but you won't pick up your phone.
What's your favorite app at the moment?
Definitely TikTok. I check it every day.
What's your favorite app at the moment?
TikTok. I could scroll for hours.
What's your guys' favorite apps at the moment?
Well, I'm an Android user, so probably TikTok Lite. Same, she put me on.
Wait, what's TikTok Lite?
It's literally just TikTok, but more compatible on my Android. Oh, and it saves data. It has optimized performance. My favorite thing is that I can scroll offline when I'm flying or have unstable connection. Yeah, I don't have enough RAM, so TikTok Lite is perfect on my Android phone. It has the same content as TikTok and the same amount of fun, but just easier and faster.
That sounds perfect. Where can I get it?
Just download it at the Google Play Store.
I'm just glad that he was able to tell us when he didn't feel good about wrestling anymore. And
do you think he's done?
I think it would have to be the right situation for Adam to wrestle again. I think it's at least possible that we would keep Adam as part of the family. But I want to get to where he feels good about traveling and doing things every week again. But I've been open with him that when he's ready, there's always a role in AEW for him. He had been a commentator at times, and he's been one of the hosts of the shows. He's great for that. He's a great talent. He could be involved in a lot of things. And if he ever did want to wrestle again and it was the right situation and everybody could wrap their heads around it, so to speak, I think that it could make a lot of sense. But if anything involving head injuries or serious injuries, I always want to look at it and evaluate, does this make sense? And is there an opportunity to do this safely where it's going to be a good outcome for everybody?
What is AEW Shockwave?
Well, it's just an idea. I file lots of different names and ideas of shows and things like that. And that was a name that I actually at the time did not know anybody else had used. And I had a really...
You know why I love that word, Shockwave? You know what it reminds me of? Pride FC back in the day. You know, Pride was the dominant, they were the WCW to the UFC's UFC or WWE, and they were the number one, and they had a show called Pride Shockwave. And so when I heard that you trademarked Shockwave, it brought back all these nostalgic feelings from the old MMA in Japan. And so I was wondering what you were going to do with that.
I'm probably not going to do it. I had a really nice talk with Billy, and Billy Corgan, who owns the NWA. I like Billy, and even before I became a wrestling promoter, I had met him, and I think he's just a great artist, and I like him. So when I talked to him on the phone, I said, if that's a show that you might do again, and because NWA had done a Shockwave, I guess Pride had done it before them.
Yeah.
But then NWA had done a Shockwave, which I didn't know at the time when we filed it. And then I talked to him and said, if that's something you want to do and you did it first, then you can do that. That's fine. And he said, oh, that's great. I appreciate that. So that was nice.
Did you talk to him about the national title as well?
I did.
Yes.
I had a great talk with him about that. Which was to say...
that will be introduced this weekend, right?
Yes, it will be. And again, I have a lot of respect for him. I like the NWA, and I like Billy a lot personally. And what I told him is, this is going to be our really for AEW, this will be an AEW championship. It's a new lineage. And I think it's cool that Billy's been able to keep the legacy of the NWA alive, and that's an operating promotion. And this is an AEW championship. So a lot of wrestling organizations have been on TBS over the years. And AEW now, I'm really, like I said, very proud. Dynamite were on for over 6 years now. And one of the companies that goes back and has a history also going back in the 1980s would be the NWA through the territories and the promotions who operated through Jim Crockett Promotions. And when Jim Crockett Promotions and Georgia came together, because Georgia Championship Wrestling is another one of these promotions, and then the companies that existed after that. And the national title, it's a different national title, but there hasn't been anybody that was the national champion on TBS since 1986.
Wow.
So this will be a new national title, a new lineage, as Billy and I were talking about. But we had a really nice talk, and I enjoyed talking to him about it. And I told him, there are things we do that are tributes to the history in wrestling, but in this case, this is a new title with a new legacy, and he gave me his blessing for it, and it was a nice talk. And it's good when the promoters can reach out and just connect about things. So the Shockwave, if they're going to do a show called that, and I said, if you've done it before me, that's yours. But I also didn't know that Pride had done it.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
I thought it was a tip of the cap to those days, but I guess, okay, we'll keep it on ice.
I don't know 1% of what you do about MMA.
It's all good.
I'm not like a super expert. I'm a fan and I like it, but I'm not like the big expert who knows everything about MMA.
No, you are that guy in wrestling. And that's your thing.
But you like both, and you're an expert on both. But it's cool. Like I've gone with Mox to UFC, and he knows everything.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We sat in the front row, and he knew everybody and told me everything, and the backgrounds of the fighters and who trains with who.
There's a lot of similarities between MMA and wrestling with the storylines, the good guys, the bad guys. It's just not as overt, but it's all right there, and everything is copied, and now they're under the same umbrella. I promise I'll let you go in a moment, but this has been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have as well. Ring of Honor and a TV deal for them. What's interesting, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but WWE has a deal with Netflix, with CW, with USA, with ESPN. Is there any real estate left for Ring of Honor?
It's the Black Friday Super Sale at Denver Mattress. Right now, save $100 on every $1,000 you spend. Save up to $400 off Doctor's Choice Elite adjustable mattress sets, or score 60 months no interest and free shipping. The Black Friday Super Sale, on now at Denver Mattress.
Yeah, absolutely. And at times there have been opportunities to do things for Ring of Honor, but I think they have to make sense. We did this insanely awesome, great media rights deal that's so good for AEW, and I'm so happy because I think we deliver really great value, and it gets great value for us, which is the perfect media rights deal. We have the perfect partner with Warner Brothers Discovery, and we did this deal where it set up Dynamite, Collision, and the pay-per-views. And is there room for Ring of Honor? I absolutely believe so. And there's been good conversations with us and them. I've had other media partners reach out about doing things with Ring of Honor and other companies that we have never worked with. So
it's possible.
Yeah, but I think it has to make sense for everybody. And also, the most important relationship for AEW is always going to be Warner Brothers Discovery, between myself and David Zasloff and the leadership there. So anything I do, I want to make sense for everybody. So I have actually rebuffed other offers at times from outside, and if we do it, I would love to do something with Warner Brothers Discovery, but again, it has to be a deal that makes sense for everybody, and it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly as big as the AEW deal, but it's still got to be pretty good. And it's got to make sense for everyone. So we've never been able to find the sweet spot, so I think it's perfect to do what we've been doing, to focus on the sweet spot we have right now with AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery. And then for Ring of Honor, we have a nice service. We've been having a really good year with Ring of Honor, and people that watch the shows would attest to that, because there's been a really good support. And I think there's been a sentiment this year, more than in the other years that I've owned the promotion, more than any year since the first year when there was no TV, when it was just pay-per-views, and everyone was like, wow, this was like just 3 awesome pay-per-views this first year. People loved that. And then people thought maybe there was the first year, I think, if people loved the 3 shows. You have to say so much of it comes down to when you have the Briscoes FTR trilogy across the 3 shows. That's a big chunk of it. But there were so many other great moments, including the arrival of Samoa Joe at the end of the very first show. And he's such an important figure, including to this day, to right now in AEW. And Those shows people love, but there was no TV. So across the shows of AEW, I had a lot of Ring of Honor involvement. People probably thought that was more than they'd like. So now there's a lot less of that, but Ring of Honor has its own show, and you still see appearances and the stories flow together. And there's wrestlers that appear, whether it's Athena, who's been an amazing women's world champion now for almost 3 years in Ring of Honor, or Bandito, who was the Ring of Honor world champion before I even owned the promotion and was a great face of Ring of Honor. And then when he came back and returned to AEW, it's a great thing because he's the Ring of Honor world champion, but he's also an AEW tag team champion. We have these people that are involved in the AEW shows. Now Mercedes Moné is the interim Ring of Honor TV champion, and she'll be wrestling
this weekend.
Well, she'll be wrestling tomorrow to settle the Ring of Honor title before her match this weekend. That's the kind of schedule Mercedes wrestles. We have Dynamite in Boston tomorrow. It's a 3-hour Dynamite and Collision. So on that show tomorrow, on the 3-hour special, Mercedes is going to wrestle Red Velvet, who is the Ring of Honor TV champion.
There's the poster right there.
And she's been out injured. There's going to be this great tag team match we see, Timeless Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa. Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa versus Alex Windsor and Riho in the quarterfinals of the tag team tournament. That's going to be a great tag team match as part of this 3-hour special. But you asked me about Ring of Honor. Mercedes actually beat Mina Shirakawa, who's in that match, to win the interim TV championship. Red Velvet, the Ring of Honor TV champion, has been out injured. She did some great things for us as the champion and continues to be a great champion, but she was out injured, and we've had a great partnership with CMLL, top Lucha Libre promotion. They've been around for over 92 years, and this year, our most watched event and one of the most successful AEW events ever was our first ever show in Mexico with them, AEW Grand Slam Mexico.
Right.
And we had an ROH Global Wars event that coincided with that. That was a great, great event. And we saw some of the top stars from Ring of Honor involved in the CMLL shows. And Red Velvet's done a great job representing AEW and ROH in Mexico. She got injured. She's back now. She's going to wrestle Mercedes to settle the ROH TV title tomorrow, and that's before Mercedes wrestles for the AEW World title this Saturday versus Chris Statlander. And like you, I'm a big Statlander fan, I think she's tremendous. I think a lot of the AEW fans who've been watching from the very beginning really like to see Chris Statlander succeeding and thriving as a world champion. And I think that Mercedes has got a huge match Saturday, but I think it's really commendable that she takes on this schedule, fights people all over the world, and she's got this big match in her hometown tomorrow versus Red Velvet. That will be a big Ring of Honor match on AEW TV, but there aren't that many huge ROH matches like that. We don't normally settle the championships on TV. This is a huge occasion for a match like this one, or weeks ago on Collision when Bandito wrestled Mascara Dorada. If there's a huge, huge match, maybe I'll put the Ring of Honor on AEW, but most of the Ring of Honor matches are focused on the Ring of Honor TV. And the fans who watch it have been saying that they think this is the best year of the Ring of Honor shows. The pay-per-views have really delivered, and just
style and substance in the GMC Sierra. Or get this low-mileage lease on this Sierra Elevation for around $499 per month.
These pizzas are built different, literally. Mix and match medium specialty pizzas for $9.99 each.
Looking at Bandito's portfolio, some of the best matches in wrestling this year have been Bandito's Ring of Honor matches, whether it's Bandito versus Takeshita in Dallas, Bandito versus Hechicero in Philadelphia, his matches in Mexico versus Mascara Dorada, the match he just had a couple weeks ago versus Mascara Dorada, the rematch.
It's amazing how you rifle off all this stuff. It's you live and breathe this. I do want to ask you about this. I had Matt and Jeff Hardy on in July, and I asked them, like, what do you make of this WWE TNA partnership? And Matt said to me, like, let's be honest, it's to hurt AEW. Do you view it that way as well? That's the way he put it.
I really like Matt and Jeff a lot. I like Matt and Jeff a lot, and I loved working with them when they were in AEW, and I still love Matt and Jeff very much.
And I don't think it was malicious.
I don't think at all.
But do you think that that's the impetus?
I respect that opinion a lot. I think
you agree with it.
I think it's probably true, and I respect that Matt said it, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. And I think Matt's a great guy. I think Jeff's a great guy.
What do you make of that? The fact that they're so tight now.
It's interesting. I think it's a very interesting collaboration, but I think Matt hit the nail on the head that it makes sense, and AEW is a very strong challenger brand, and it's not that unusual. Like,
you take it as a compliment,
yeah,
perhaps.
absolutely. Like, I remember when WCW was starting to do better, and Smoky Mountain Wrestling was running shows in Georgia, that Vince McMahon called up Jim Cornette and sent a bunch of the WWF wrestlers to Smoky Mountain Wrestling to help
history repeating itself.
compete with WCW. So I do think, like, when you have a strong challenger brand, it's not that unusual to see the WWF collaborate with another company. We saw that with Smoky Mountain there, and in Memphis, I think, did some of the same things to compete with WCW shows. So it's not that unusual. And again, I don't take it personally at all. It makes sense looking at the wrestling playbook of the WWF.
When you saw that picture of Jade, Ricky, Cody, and I believe Punk in there, all with ties to your organization, how did that make you feel?
I saw that, and I think AEW is having a great year. I think AEW is in a fantastic place. I think the roster right now is delivering great shows, and I'm really proud of what AEW is doing right now. It did make me smile because it reminded me of Double or Nothing 2020, the first pandemic pay-per-view. We put on this great pay-per-view, and Cody won the TNT title, and Mox retained the AEW World title versus the late, great Mr. Brody Lee. May he rest in peace. And after the show, Cody and Mox in the area of Daly's Place that is the kind of the one communal area. It's part of what brings everyone together so much in Daly's Place is like the Gorilla and the pre-tape space and the live interview space and the hallway. It's all one thing that connects the amphitheater itself. There's just a very small little backstage, and it's very tight, and it's talent viewing. It's everything, and that's why, like, when people are doing promos, there might be 6 rows of wrestlers sitting 5 feet from them behind the camera watching them do it, but it's just, we're all used to it. And after Double or Nothing 2020, Cody and Mox took a photo, and I thought it was interesting. It just shows how far in the mirror, but I remember the photo that Cody and Mox took, and in that moment, I think I took it on my phone.
Wow.
So
when you see that, like, is there pride there? Do you feel like it's a shot at you? Do you feel like...
I have relationships with all 4 of them, and they're very different. I could talk for 2 hours about each of the 4 of them and why I like them and why I thought they were great in AEW, and we could talk about all their matches, or I could talk about how much I like them all as people. But they're all not wrestling in AEW anymore. And but to be completely honest with you, I just thought that photo, and it made me think of Double or Nothing 2020 and being there in Jacksonville and taking that photo on my phone and remembering that night and thinking, man, it's crazy how 5.5 years have flown by.
Okay, one more I'll ask you, and then I'll let you go. And thank you again for all this time. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
There's some complaints about fans being priced out with the WWE events. Do you look at what they are charging? Do you look at things like WrestleMania going to Saudi, and there were some people saying like, hey, AEW should run a show that weekend for the American fans? Are you looking at these things that they're doing, and just like they're trying to clearly counter-program your stuff, do you try to counter their moves sometimes as well to, gain more fans and garner this relationship with the fan base?
Like a lot of the things we're saying, I think there's a balance. I'm cognizant of what people are saying, and I'm cognizant of their pricing. I think the AEW pricing, which is lower, and WWE shows are more expensive for the fans than AEW, and when it comes to the ticketing and the pricing. Now, we have different models when it comes to the distribution. I think that what we do is very good, and it's been working for us. From the very beginning of AEW, whether it was on the beginning calls, like before we'd ever done a live event, talking about the original shows and saying before we'd ever done a Dynamite, being on the phone, and Cody was in some of these phone calls, and Matt and Nick and different people, and talking about how,
hey, it's Tyson from the All-American Rejects, and guess what? We have been having a crazy time on TikTok, haven't we? It's been a freaking party. Well, we're ready to light your panties back on fire for this next round of house parties. We got new music we're teasing along the way, and I didn't mean that about the panties. I don't want to set anybody's underwear on fire. There's microplastics in there. That is dangerous. But if you want to tune in to where the matches are, and then it strikes you with the mood, and the mood strikes, then follow us on TikTok. Come on, baby, light my fire. Ooh, that is flammable. Turn it off.
Ollie's deals are so good, you won't believe the prices.
This has to be a joke.
It's no joke. Ollie's Bargain Outlet sells famous brand name merchandise at up to 70% off the fancy store prices. Hurry in.
Ollie! Good stuff, cheap!
I always wanted there to be tickets that were in that range of somewhere from $20 to $30 for the fans to be able to get in to the TV shows every week, and that was going to be a consistent theme in AEW. And there still is inexpensive ticketing, and the get-in price is usually pretty fair compared to the competition. It's always lower, and the ringside seats are also, they're more expensive than the highest tier of seats in the arena, but they are still more affordable than our competition, and they always have been, and I hope that they always will be, and I'll try to keep that affordable pricing. That's something I care about, making sure that families and friends can get into the event, go to the show, and people who really care about being in the front row or being really close to the ring, people that will be willing to pay a little bit more for the ticket than just getting into the event, and people that really care about that really close ringside seat. It's still the most affordable ringside seat you're going to get for major TV wrestling and pay-per-views. We're having this great year, but that's something that has been consistent from the beginning. And the pay-per-view price, as I was saying earlier, the pay-per-view price has been the same for cable and satellite from the very beginning on every provider, and now we actually offer the lowest price ever on HBO Max. So I think that's also been good. Now we're actually offering more affordable than ever pricing plan. And I will say this, because this is really interesting information.
Okay.
I didn't know this till I started doing the media rights deal for AEW this past year. So doing the research and bringing in top analysts, I learned things I didn't know about AEW. Of all the sports leagues in the world, of every league, from NBA, NFL, MLB, WWE, UFC, PGA, and every sports league, the league that has the highest spending on streaming video per month is AEW.
Okay.
Now, our fans, I'm not saying AEW is the biggest league in the world. The NFL is the biggest league in the world. But AEW has the most avid, loyal fans in the world.
I feel that, by the way. Sometimes they come after me. Can you tell them that I'm not so bad?
I think today,
they come after me.
I think you're going to be a fan favorite.
You think
today.
so? Because they came after me for like 3 years.
I think you've
not
done
very
a big,
nice.
big baby face turn.
Is this my turn?
Yeah, I think it was.
I feel like this is my turn.
Especially because you asked me all these questions that were very legitimate questions, and I think hopefully I've also
It was
done
all very
myself.
fair. Yeah.
I think
I've come a long way from Montreal.
I have.
That?
We've done
It was awful.
Done a good job, and
we showed people that you can get off on the wrong foot, but then get on the right foot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I totally agree with that. And I also
they stop, hounding me. They think that I'm a paid shill.
Well, I think you've shown that you're a very balanced, fair guy. You asked me a lot of good questions, and I really respect that. And also, like I said, I've enjoyed the interviews you've been doing with some AEW
We do more
wrestlers.
of them.
I hope you will, yeah. And that's why also when we hadn't really been sending AEW people, but I was interested because I saw you were saying some good stuff. I thought you did that great interview with Maven.
Maven's the man.
Maven's the man, and he was a really...
I think you guys should have him on the broadcast. I think he's a great broadcaster.
You know what's...
He's a color analyst.
You know what's amazing? You want to hear something cool I've never said publicly?
I like that.
One of the people the person who is largely responsible for getting me into pro wrestling, I've been a fan my whole life, but I had never been backstage at a show, and I never really believed that I could take it to the next level. And I got to work with him through football because we both believe in protecting the players and doing everything we can to make football safe. And it's the man who started the Concussion Foundation with Chris Nowinski.
Nowinski, yes.
And Dr. Chris Nowinski is one of my really great friends.
Wow.
And Chris Nowinski was on Tough Enough, and the final 3 on Tough Enough were Chris Nowinski and Maven, who came in and did this great thing with us. And so I was joking with Chris because Chris and I are still really close, and he also comes in every year to talk to the wrestlers and gives a really serious speech because I want them to hear it about head safety and them. They want to take these high risks and chances, but I want them to hear it straight from Chris that it's really important that they are cognizant and that they hear the message he's giving, that it really, we want to be as safe as possible because Chris was a pro wrestler.
Yeah, I remember.
And he cares about this. So Chris comes in every year and I see him and I talk to him regularly outside of the shows. And I was telling Chris, I had this great interaction with Maven and I hadn't ever talked to him. The only time I'd ever really seen him in person was after a house show on Halloween when I was in college, Halloween 2004. And I brought that up to Maven when he was shooting his video, and he was like, thought that was really neat. That
I remember this.
And he was such a nice guy, so I was telling Chris that. But the other reason I bring this up is Josh Matthews now works in our production.
That's right.
And he's in the truck, and Josh is now a big part of the production team, and he's working with Mike Mansouri and Daryl and all the guys.
Mike may be my favorite person in the business. Mike Mansouri.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. I
Really?
adore Mike. Yes.
That's all. I love Mike.
I met him right before the pandemic. He was still at WWE, and he took me on a tour backstage. And I was like, this guy's the coolest. And then he left like a week later, and then he went to work for Pat McAfee, if you recall. And then now he's working for you in a high production, and love him.
He's the head of global production.
His wife is wonderful as well.
Corey's amazing.
Yes. So you've got, and Renee, I'm a big fan of Renee.
Renee's awesome.
You see, I'm a big fan of a lot of your guys. I think
this is good. I think we just needed to do it in person.
Yeah,
and isn't it always much more pleasant in person? And
No Wi-Fi board? Problem solved. Use TikTok Lite. No signal, still plays videos. On the subway, still watching. Travel anywhere, stay entertained. Anytime, anywhere fun.
It's great talking to people on Zoom or on video chat, but it's really not the same. And this has been great, and I appreciate you giving me the chance. It's a big week for us with tomorrow being this huge episode, the Go Home Show, Wednesday Night Dynamite, and this being the big pay-per-view week, especially for such a big tentpole show. This is the 7th full year, and it's been with us from the very beginning.
Look at this week you have. Look at that lineup here. This is something.
It's going to be huge. We have Dynamite tomorrow night. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on TBS and HBO Max. And then Collision is on as part of this 3-hour block. So you got to watch tomorrow. It's a huge go-home block. It's Full Gear Week. Then the Countdown Show, which is all those awesome video packages. And you were just talking about Mike Mansouri. His team, Mike and the guys, they do a great job putting these countdown shows together. Mike, Phil, and all the gang, they do a great job. And that's the Countdown Show. So that's a block Wednesday night that sets up the pay-per-view, which is Saturday. And then on TNT and HBO Max, you got the Tailgate Brawl. On all the other platforms, there's a 0 hour that we put for all the Amazon and all the great providers. But live, you can watch the wrestling matches in the arena on TNT and on HBO Max, 7 p.m. Eastern Saturday. And it's live coast to coast. It's on at 4 p.m. Pacific on TNT. Or on HBO Max. It's like Collision, but an hour earlier than usual for Collision and live coast to coast. And it sets up the pay-per-view. And we saw on the last Tailgate Brawl, Ariel, that, when you have a great match in the ring, it could even continue from the Tailgate Brawl into the pay-per-view.
Right.
So Full Gear, you don't know what to expect. So you got to watch a Tailgate Brawl. And FTR versus Jet Speed was an awesome match on the Tailgate Brawl. And it continued into the pay-per-view. And it talk about a hot start. It was a hot way to start the pay-per-view. So
I'm afraid to say goodbye because I think I'm going to have a lot of heat with your head of PR for keeping you on for so long.
I think you won't.
Your head of PR is going to kill me.
I think actually he's out there.
He's a brilliant guy. He's a very nice man, but I think he's going to say you kept him on for too long. But we were flowing. We were flowing, right?
And I got to say, I think he's going to be very happy and to be honest, probably a little relieved how well this went.
Okay, all right. As am I.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Tony. Really appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow. Good luck on Saturday. Looking forward to it very much. Continued success. Looking forward to the big shows. Actually, I have a list here. You've got, if you're in the New York area, December 20th and 21st, right here in New York City, Hammerstein Ballroom. Pre-sale actually begins today, I'm told. General sale on the 24th of November. Your last show of the year is December 27th. AEW World's End at the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates. A great venue. So all the best to you guys.
Thank you.
Much respect. We'll take a quick break, say goodbye to Tony. Be back with your questions. I'm sure there'll be a lot of them on the nose coming up right after this. Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.
This is Buick, now. Buick, exceptional by design.
Get this ultra-low mileage lease on this 2026 Buick Encore GX Preferred for around $269 per month.
Take the next step in treating your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis with Entyvio, the only gut-focused treatment for UC that helps block inflammation in the gut and works right where you need it. Now is the time to talk with your doctor about the results you want, rapid response, and for many people, visible improvement of the gut lining. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. Although unlikely, PML, a rare brain infection that can result in death, cannot be ruled out. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, sores, or are prone to infections. Liver problems can occur. Learn more about the only treatment for UC that works right where you need it. And ask your doctor about gut-focused Entyvio, including the Entyvio pen.
Gut-focused Entyvio.